Imogen and her mother are there together to try to
Yeah.
repair a very fraught relationship that they have. And Imogen's mom is played by the iconic and exceptional Christine Baranski. And so that whole part of it was just truly mind blowing to be able to act with her. And this one too.
How are you?
Great.
Great.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm
I love
great.
your headphones.
Oh, thank you. My gamer headphones.
Oh,
They're so
nice.
cool.
Nice.
Well, congratulations on the show. I'm really loving it. I love already the first season. I'm loving the second one. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, because in this second season, the characters already have a knowledge that they didn't have on the first one. So what can you tell me about this when, they start on this kind of brain spa?
Well, I think it's one of the great things about the second season. One of the things that I really loved when I read the first few episodes is that we dive right in. There's no kind of like wondering what's happening, and we get right into these characters' stories. So I think I think it amps up the beginning of the show in a way, because you just kind of like, there's some introduction in the first episode, but then we kind of, jump off the cliff together, and we're in. And I think it really gives the show a great momentum, or the second season a great momentum. So I love that about it. And it feels quite different to the way that the first season rolled out.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into your characters because, they are completely different from each other. They have very different reasons for being there. So what can you tell me about both of them without, getting into any spoilers?
Well, poor Imogen. Paper, she's a bit of a tough one. She's not super socially inclined, even though she tries to be. And the way that she tries to fit in is by immediately screaming her head off about how intelligent she is and how much more she knows than everyone else in the room, which never really works. But, it is out of this desperation to be loved and accepted, which I find very heartbreaking and also very human and kind of universal. And she had this trauma very early on in her life, and she's been constantly trying to fix it through various types of therapy, and that's what brings her to this particular retreat. And then I was also lucky enough to be so Imogen and her mother are there together to try to repair a very fraught relationship that they have. And Imogen's mom is played by the iconic and exceptional Christine Baranski. And so that whole part of it was just truly mind-blowing to be able to act with her. And this one too.
And how about you, Mary?
My character Brian is a children's TV show host, and who with deep-rooted anger issues, and because of those anger issues, his career has taken a dive. And so you find Brian quite broken in the beginning of the show, and he also has a puppet that he uses as the kids TV show host, and the puppet really turns out is kind of an extension of Brian. He's very attached to it, and is kind of like his greatest critic and also his best friend. Brian's kind of isolated himself in his world in a lot of ways, and he feels so deeply about his work and cares so much about children, because in my own kind of backstory, he had a broken childhood and wants to kind of prevent that from happening to children. But he says a very revealing line in the show, which is, some people fail because they don't care, and some people fail because they care too much. And that kind of sums up Brian.
Yeah, I agree with you. And these types of shows, we have strangers that got together in the same unique space, and we love these shows. We really love them. We want to see what happens. Why do you think we find this concept so appealing?
That's an interesting one. I mean, when it's a kind of a hodgepodge of people, you get to cover so many different personalities and different demographics.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's an opportunity for audience members to see themselves in a bunch of different people. I think what's really special about this particular premise is that it's a whole bunch of very, very broken people who don't necessarily know each other, but they have the comfort of being really broken, lonely people together and working through it together as a group, even though they're such individual journeys. I hate saying that word, but yeah, I think that there's an appeal in that.
I think there's also something, there's a kind of a therapeutic sort of element to watching people who are broken find their way, sort of stumbling through it and hopefully getting through it to some sort of release or some sort of epiphany. And, you know, watching this group of people of all sort of different ages and types going through it sort of feels a bit representative of a lot of us, and kind of makes it feel like a really human experience. And I think I find watching a show like that very therapeutic. And I think, you know, this show is like fun and wild and like looks beautiful and all that kind of stuff, but essentially it is a story about people finding their way through trauma and hopefully getting through to the other side. And I think that's something we can all relate to and
aspire to.
What's that?
Aspire to.
And aspire to. Yeah. I think hopefully, or just knowing that it's possible is kind of inspiring, I think, you know.
Yes, of course. And finally, to start wrapping up, I do want to ask you about rehearsals because, you know, I know that in the show I mean, that was my question exactly, because I really was like curious, like, does it help maybe just, okay, you guys, we meet for the first time, we already met before. I mean, does it help to maybe, okay, just with the person that you come or that you in the show know from before? I mean, or how does it work in that sense? I mean, do you have any particular way of rehearsing or not so much?
I think it's different with every different group of people and different on every show. We didn't do a ton of rehearsal, if any, apart from on what was on set before we started shooting. Yeah. And a lot of that was sort of, you know, finding our positions and stuff and working through what was happening in the scene, obviously. But I mean, sometimes there's just not time to do that, or it's just not worked into the schedule in that way. So it depends on the nature of the group and the nature of the material in some ways, I think. I don't know.
Well, what we did have was the because we were in Munich for 6 months. Yeah. And so what we did have in our favor was the time spent together. Yeah. So even though we didn't necessarily have time to like rehearse like we would a play, and it was kind of like you go through it once or twice and then you shoot, we did have the knowledge of one another and the kind of respect for one another and the love for one another that really made trying things out so much more easy, and you know, the vulnerability kind of disappeared, and we just knew that everyone was there for one another and we could try things out and figure it out together. So that was really nice. Cool. So
there's always this sort of in the beginning, there's always this kind of like getting to know you kind of thing, but then once you're off and running and with a wonderful group like this of great actors who are lovely people, then you find your groove, and like it's kind of beautiful actually that you just sort of like click into it. It's quite lovely.
Very well, and I love the casting. So it really clicked for me. I think the chemistry is excellent between all of you. So congratulations again on such a great show, and really hope to see you in another junket.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Me too.
You too, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.